I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and there was anxiety, depression, all through my childhood. And I think I probably started realizing that at the very end of my high school, that hey, everything wasn't normal. And I had a nervous breakdown after high school. But I was convinced, because everybody always told me, don't go see a psychiatrist, don't psychologist, they're going to just make you more crazy. So it took some time for me to fight with my mind. I thought I had a strong mind. I kept fighting it even though I was full of anxiety. My mind was out of control. And finally in my 30s, I just realized I can't live like this much longer. And I just decided to pick up the phone and call a psychiatrist and start getting help on my own. And she listened to me and she started prescribing me medication, and it's kind of been drug roulette for 20 years or more. It's not easy to find the right medication, for all of us. Some of us get lucky. Yeah, it was, it took some time to be broken down to the point where you actually admit you got a problem.
Yeah,
at least that's my case.
Yeah, and in my case, I benefited from your struggle in a way, because I had struggled with depression and anxiety for most of my adult life, but I had no idea that that is what I was struggling with. And then I came to the United States after marrying John, and I was really homesick. And for the first 5 years of our marriage, I just felt horrible. And I assumed that it was just that I was very homesick. And then, I don't know if you remember, but one day you said, "Mommy, maybe you want to see a doctor." And I think by then I knew that there was something that I was not overcoming, and that it went beyond just being homesick. And then I went to the doctor, and I think it was a lot easier for me to get to that point because I had been struggling with mental illness. But to be quite honest with you, mental illness was not even a thing in my family, or so we thought, in Panama. And it was not until after I went to the doctor and I started reading and receiving therapy that I realized, oh boy, this has been in my family for as long as I can remember. And what you saw as just strange behavior from the people that you love the most was actually mental illness that was never received that label, but that very much needed to in order for it to be treated. So I'm very grateful that you suggested that, and you probably were able to suggest it because of the pain that you yourself dealt with.
I think my family has supported me by overlooking my quirks and idiosyncrasies and just like, oh, that's just Dad, that's just John.
Most of the times, anyway.
Yeah, so, you just, if you're in a family that you're even trying to care for each other, I think you just learn to overlook certain things if they're not destructive, I mean, Jenny and I both knew we've been taking medication for a lot of years, so, it's just part of our family, of who we are, it's just life.
Yeah. One of the wonderful things is that when we were dating, although we met long distance, we were kind of pen
pals?
Pen pals.
We were pen pals.
John was very honest with me. I mean, you were by then very aware of your mental health. So I remember him mentioning to me one day that this is something that he dealt with. And I honestly didn't know what it meant. So I specifically asked him, so what does that mean? And he explained his condition to me. And so I think we started our relationship on good footing, a footing of honesty. And then of course, once he suggested that I went to see a doctor and I saw a doctor, we had already established a platform of honesty and vulnerability in our relationship. So we were already supporting each other. And I think that it became an issue of, okay, now we really need to support each other because we're both struggling with mental illness. And I think our children have been supportive to the degree that they have been able to be, greatly in part because we have kept that honesty, vulnerability with them too. We've spoken to them very clearly about mental illness, what it is, that we struggle with it, and that we keep, plugging along in spite of it. And so I think to the degree that we've been honest with them, they've been able to support us, and we've been able to support them when the time came. So I think honesty, right, is a big deal, because nobody can support you unless they know what you're struggling with.
So many families are in denial.
Yes.
And things are not spoken. You just don't talk about certain things, and that's never going to heal. Never going to solve any problems if it stays like that.
Absolutely.
People are scared of what they don't understand, and well, let's face it. Some people with mental illness have done things that have harmed other people. So, everybody in a class gets, blamed or comes under suspicion for what a few people do. And most people with mental illness are more likely to harm themselves than they are other people. And the stigma, some people are going to understand, and I think some people never will. That's life. There are different kinds of people, and we need to focus on those of us who understand to help people. And we just have to realize there are some people that are never going to understand. That's the way their makeup is.
Yeah. The worst part, in my estimation, with the stigma is that it's very generalized. People will be quiet about it. People may be suffering and they will not say anything about it because they are afraid that their employers are going to find out, their classmates are going to find out. Sometimes even worse, that their family and friends are going to find out. And so a lot of people suffer in silence. They will not openly say, I am struggling with this. And in so doing, what we're doing is we are condemning these people to deal with their illness quietly and alone. And being alone is one of the worst things, right? For someone with mental illness. And this is why we've uncovered what mental illness is for our children who are still teenagers. From the moment that they could understand, we've been talking about it, and we find that the topic of mental illness for them is a very common, normal topic. At the end of the day, mental illness is exactly that, an illness. And I think one of the worst things about invisible illnesses is that because people cannot see a cast or they cannot see bandage, they show very little compassion, right? I mean, I don't think anybody has a problem feeling compassion with someone that has a bandage or a cast or that's going through chemotherapy, but that compassion seems to be thrown out of the window the minute it has to do with mental illness. And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just think it's so difficult because people always want to put their best foot forward.
Yes.
And when they know there's something wrong with them, they don't. They're not going to put their best foot forward, and that leads to withdrawal. That's why you see people withdraw, because they know they're not doing well and they retreat.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pull someone out of that when they know they're not going to be their best with people, and you have to pursue them.
Absolutely.
And hope they want to be reached.
Yeah, well, and
because it's not easy sometimes.
And if they have any doubts, if they have doubts that society, as they know it, is going to even reject them or ridicule them or criticize them because of their mental illness, then they're going to be even more reluctant to reach out for help. And so, I think that's why a lot of mental illness can end up in suicide or can get out of control because people do not seek support because they are afraid of being stigmatized, of being ridiculed, of being humiliated. And so to the degree that we are able to stop that stigma, to the degree that we're able to normalize mental illness and say, hey, this is something that affects a lot of people, and it is okay to seek help and doesn't make you any less than a person, then I think to that degree, then we're just going to eliminate the loneliness that surrounds so many people, right? That are struggling with this on their own.
I first knew of NAMI in the 1980s and first became aware that there are actually organizations that have been started to try and help people that had mental illness, and so that like opened my eyes, and I found it refreshing that there were people actually trying to at least help people. You know, in the 1970s, my mom and dad had worked at a mental hospital when I was a kid. And in the 1970s, they went through a process of deinstitutionalization, and they pretty much closed down most of the mental hospitals, and they released everybody into the community. And so you had people, a lot of mental health problems suddenly in the community, and the community didn't react very well to that, and people were ridiculed, and and there wasn't a lot of support for them at first, and then the organization got started. But still, there's always been a stigma with this type of thing, and people don't understand it. It scares them. So it's nice to have organizations like NAMI, and I hope it grows, and I hope it gets more of a public hearing and people listen.
On my side, I learned about NAMI without knowing that he already knew about it, because my then employer invited us to a gala. They had been sponsoring NAMI for many years, and they invited us to attend to a gala. I had not been working there for too long, and we went to the gala. And we have a family mission. We've always had it. Our mission is twofold. We say we love God and we change lives. And so when we went to that gala and started learning what NAMI was all about, we kind of looked at each other and we thought, this falls right into our mission. This is an organization whose mission we can align ourselves with, because what better way to change lives than to work against the stigma associated with mental illness. And we knew that that was one of the many purposes of NAMI as an organization, and we thought that this was something that we could align ourselves with, and the rest is history, right? We've been for the last couple of years, we've been pursuing certifications and facilitating support groups and learning a little bit every day more about this. We've learned quite a bit, and so we are happy not only for being able to contribute to NAMI, but the way NAMI and the knowledge we've acquired has contributed to our lives.